Hi, and welcome to our podcast, Learning Leading Now, where we talk all things education at Mobile County Public Schools. I'm your host, Sally Erickson. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist in the Office of Communication, joined by my coworker.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Dunn. I'm also in the Office of Communication as the Communications Assistant, and we have a very special guest with us here today.
Welcome to our special guest, Dr. Kevin Balius, who is an academic supervisor, and I guess you'd call him par excellence. Right?
Très bien. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. Thank you for the invitation.
Now tell us all about what you do, Kevin.
Oh, wow. What do I do?
What do you not do? Maybe I should start with that.
Yeah, what do I not do?
Well, we should probably start with, I wanted to talk a little bit about literacy in general, but one of the reasons I wanted to have you as our guest is because of all the different aspects of language instruction that you supervise. I just find that absolutely fascinating. But you tell us what you do, and if you want to start with your early career, or if you just want to start with what piqued your interest in academics, whatever you want to start with is fine.
Absolutely. Okay. So my initial journey into education was not expected at all. I come from a family of educators, but when I first got to college, I was actually a biomedical science major. So big shift, right? So I went all the way through calculus and chemistry 2 and organic chemistry, and then I realized that I really like to talk and write expressively, so I needed to change. So I switched into education, and then that's what led me to this path with ELA, which I guess came from, I had a fabulous teacher in high school named Miss Linda Lucas, and she led our AP courses and introduced me to all the world of literature. And as a result, that really always was the underpinning of what I was passionate about. So when I first went to college, it was what everybody said I should be doing. But then I went with my passion, which is reading, which is all things literacy, right? And then that sort of leads into my current job.
So you talked about how early on you kind of were influenced being told what you should do in college, but there was also a teacher that you mentioned to us beforehand that kind of influenced you and sparked a love of reading. Is that what you had said?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So when I went to high school, there were 4 of us growing up. We weren't very well-to-do, so there were 4 of us. We lived with my grandmother in a 2-bedroom trailer.
Wow.
And my mother and I actually shared a bedroom until I was almost 16. And then my brother's room was the living room. And then my granny, of course, she had her own room. Nobody was allowed in there. So I never really thought about going to college. We all worked. I got my first job at 12. I worked on at a chicken house, which I'm surprised I still eat chicken today because those are not clean animals.
Yeah.
But as I was doing that, I was going to school, and there was one teacher named Miss Barbara Reynolds. And I guess she had just been watching me and just felt I could be successful. And so the first day of my senior year, she came to one of the classes I was in, grabbed me and said, "You're being transferred to my class." And it was a college prep class.
Wow.
I had never thought about going to college until that time. And so she really sparked my interest, helped me find scholarships so that way I could afford to go, and helped me sort of navigate that path of how do I get from point A to point B. And it must have worked because I stayed in college for 14 years.
Wow. But that's what it takes. It really takes someone taking the time to invest in you. And that's so important even now. And you are able to supervise 90 different schools and hopefully encourage the teachers that you're over to do the same thing with their students.
Yes, thank you. So I always like to frame it as I get to support the curriculum and support teachers as they work with our most important resource, which is our children.
Absolutely.
So I directly oversee, and I always tell everybody, I'm the bumpers when you go bowling that keeps the ball going towards the pins. I don't always make all of those minute, very tedious decisions, but I help us stay focused towards that goal. And so I work with reading, language arts, and world languages, which we have several of those in our district.
Absolutely.
And then I also get to support MTSS PST, which helps us, and I'm really passionate about this. This is supporting those students who have gaps, who may be behind their peers, to make sure they get the resources they need so they don't fall so far behind that they are struggling for the rest of their education.
Well, and tell us about this new World Language Award you were just describing.
I am so excited about this. I really am. So a few years ago, the State Department, well, the Alabama legislature passed a seal of biliteracy bill. And it said it's to promote bilingualism and the recognition of students who commit to that goal and achieve it.
Wonderful.
So this past year, I worked with several of our wonderful world language teachers in our district to develop a manual for implementation. Got it board approved. Mr. Threadgill, being the wonderful superintendent he is, approved it for our district and got that approval. And this year, we have 30 students who
Wow.
achieved this recognition. So excited for them. They have all proven proficiency in the English language. That's one requirement. And you get that by benchmarking on the ACT in English or reading. And then they have demonstrated proficiency in a foreign language,
Wow.
either German, French, or Spanish.
Wow.
So I am very proud of them. They are all IB students, so they've already taken on all of these academic
Yes.
challenges, but this will actually be included on their transcript.
Wow.
So now, not only if they choose to go to college, they can receive college credit, but also it prepares them for being career ready.
Yes.
Because bilingualism, we know in our connected world and economy, is so important.
Absolutely.
And employers are definitely looking for that skill.
Yes, we are such a melting pot here
Yes.
in the United States. So it's important to be able to have those other languages that you're able to connect with other people as well.
Well,
Especially in Mobile, with it being a port
Yes,
city. We have
absolutely.
so many different cultures right here, and I'm so grateful for that.
Well, this
Yeah.
is just one example. My son works for Airbus. So you would think being able to speak French would be the key, right? Because the Airbus executives are all from France, or many of them are. But no, the key has been the Spanish that he learned in school, because a lot
Wow.
of his coworkers and a lot of the maintenance workers that he interacts with are all Spanish speakers.
Wow.
So it's a real multicultural place to work.
That's right. And you wouldn't expect that, like, just when you Alabama.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, you don't think because growing up, everybody around me, we all spoke English.
Yeah.
But in just those past 20 years, we've seen such a diversification of both languages and cultures. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity for our students.
It absolutely
That's
is.
really exciting. Now, how many languages do our students speak? I remember hearing the number one time, and it was just amazing.
It's over 70 different languages.
See, that's just fantastic.
That includes, all of our students who are serviced through our English learners division and department, as well as some students just come to us already speaking fluent English and fluent in another language.
That's amazing.
And connecting that back to the seal of biliteracy. It doesn't just have to be French, Spanish, or German. Those are just the subjects that we typically teach. If a student is proficient in another language, like another home language, there are several different tests they can take to demonstrate that proficiency that's recognized for that award.
That's a great award. That's really
amazing.
wonderful.
Amazing. A great opportunity for our students.
Well,
Absolutely.
let's talk a little bit more about some of the different ways that you work with our teachers to help them teach. I was kind of curious about new techniques to get children excited about reading in particular. But whatever
Absolutely.
you think is really important to talk about.
Absolutely. So I'm employed in my dream job right now. I have loved this job. I think this is my 7th year in this position. And the best part about this job is getting to work with teachers and support them as they grow and build that teacher capacity. One of the most important things, I think, for teachers, especially when we're talking about instilling a love for reading, is just being able to build relationships with students. I also teach at the University of South Alabama, and one thing that I always tell our new teachers is that I teach students before I teach content. And what I mean by that is you have to have that connection. You have to build that relationship. A famous educational guru once said, students don't learn from people they don't like.
Yeah.
And I always took that back to, yep,
Yes.
so
You have to build that connection.
Exactly. And that's not something that comes easy for everybody. And that's okay. You know, some people, we struggle in how do I connect or what are the things I can do? And there's a lot of simple things you can do. Like just being at your door every day and greeting the students with a smile. That may be the first smile they've gotten since they've woken up. And so focusing on building those relationships so that way then you can do the hard work of working with students to help them build their literacy skills. And I think moving past that then, it's about being very intentional with our instruction.
Yeah.
I know a lot of us, I know my teachers did. I remember reading Chicka Chicka Boom Boom
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Green Eggs and Ham. And then when I got in middle school, there were many books about dogs that had passed away.
Oh, gosh.
But I remember reading them.
Yeah.
But now it's so important for us to be very targeted in what we do. So it's more than just reading books to our children. We have to do that. And it's something I recommend every parent do.
Yes.
If you want to help your students with literacy and your children become better readers, read to your kids.
Read to
Read
them.
the back of a cereal box, read a newspaper, read anything.
Yes.
But with teachers, we have to be very intentional with the instruction we provide as well that targets reading.
Yeah.
And that's where all of our universal diagnostics like iReady come in, our literacy screeners that then we give students to really hone in on where their least deficit skills are, those learning gaps, and then targeting that instruction to build that literacy ladder as they go up in the grade levels.
Yeah.
Well, sorry. One of the things I thought would be interesting to talk about today is the Alabama Literacy Act.
Yes, the Alabama Literacy Act has been something that has, for the better, really impacted the entire state. I believe the State Department recently put out that our NAEP scores are some of the fastest growing in the country.
That's great.
As a state, and I have seen our own data as a district in ELA rise consistently from year to year. I don't want to misspeak, but we had one grade level last year, or it may have been the year before, grow by 10%.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Fantastic.
Exactly, and that's that intentionality that's created through the Literacy Act. The Literacy Act requires that every student read on grade level by grade 3.
Yeah.
And that's very important, and it sets out specific skills that students have to master to be able to read fluently. And they just upped those, that benchmark test score they have to have on the ACAP. And, you know, we're ready for the challenge
Yeah.
in Mobile County. Our
Absolutely.
students and teachers are ready for that challenge, and we don't want them to read just at the base minimum.
No.
We want to keep pushing them so that way they have more opportunities.
Yes.
Because we all know that the first 3 years or 4 years of school is learning to read, but then everything after is reading to learn.
Yeah.
And if we're not reading capable by grade 3, it's going to impact our ability to learn
Exactly. You have
afterwards.
to build that strong foundation, and that starts in those early detrimental grades. And
Absolutely.
everything has the foundation in reading.
Absolutely.
Well, and I'm really glad to hear that our students have responded so well because, you know, for the last few years, it's been constant worry about how COVID affected these learning patterns.
Yeah. Well, what I consistently see in research and just in some of our conferences is the learning loss, right?
Yeah.
Or that's what they refer
what they
to it
refer
as.
to it as.
But I know from looking at our own data that we have seen nothing but gains.
Yeah.
Because we were very intentional. I
Yes.
remember during COVID, we were so worried about students' reading abilities. A part of one of our fabulous programs is Phonics First, and it is very tactile. It follows the Orton-Gilliam method. And a part of that was having sand trays where students would trace letters
I've
while
seen
they
this.
said it
Yeah.
to create that kinesthetic memory. Well, I sent a pound of sand home to every child, kindergarten through 3rd grade.
Wow.
Now, at the time, I didn't realize that was 18,000 pounds of sand. And our team, because of COVID,
Like,
we didn't have the help. So we were
Kevin,
just,
what have you done?
I remember getting the question, is this really what you want to do? And I said, well, this is what the team and I think is best. They need this.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it's just the sand. That's one of
No.
those hindsight memories. But I think we really did. And I work with such a fabulous team. Our elementary educators really put a lot out there to support teachers,
Yeah.
to support students and parents. So I think we're seeing that pay off now.
Yes. But the
So
point
glad.
was that you were intentional.
Intentional, that's right. We were intentional. Every, because, a lot of that was purchased with that COVID money,
Yes.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And we wanted to make sure that we spent taxpayers' dollars appropriately to have the largest impact on our students. So
Yes.
that way they would not face the repercussions of learning
Yeah.
loss, which we're seeing in parts of the country. But we are truly blessed that that has not impacted our ELA.
Yes, and I
vision.
hope our viewers know how great of an impact that is. Even when you were mentioning that 10% growth, we have the largest school district in Alabama.
That's
So
right.
a 10% growth in a certain grade level, that's huge.
That's
really
right.
is.
That's
we,
huge.
We have over 50 elementary schools.
Yeah.
And our elementary team, we have 2 elementary curriculum
Mm-hmm.
specialists, a dyslexia specialist who supports
Mm-hmm.
those schools as well. And we have another elementary specialist
Mm-hmm.
who also supports our ARI coaches, who are our reading specialists
Mm-hmm.
at the schools. And all of them were there through that whole time period, making sure they had everything they needed.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned dyslexia. I think it'd be good for you to give us a little overview of what we do to reach those students and how that population is growing because, well, I don't know if it's fair to say that it's growing. Maybe it's just being diagnosed a
Yes,
little more
it's-
effectively.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I've heard you speak before to large groups about the importance of focusing on that aspect of our education for our children.
Well, you're exactly right. You give me a microphone, I'm going to speak.
Tell it.
So I'm so happy we get to talk about dyslexia. Dyslexia is a neurological issue that affects students' ability to process certain aspects of language. And actually, research tells us that up to 20% of the population is affected with dyslexia, but it's a continuum. So not everyone who has the characteristics of dyslexia may actually need that support. However, now we have things in place that when you have those characteristics, if you do need that support, we are there for you. In the past, I'm way past, it wasn't a recognized thing.
Yeah.
And then you had several years of, yes, it is, no, it's not, and it depended on where you were. Now, I'm not saying not recognized in Mobile County, just in the
broader
US, in the
sense,
broader
yes.
sense. But now we have, as a part of the Literacy Act, specific things in place that support those students. So, for example, we have a process for identifying and screening those students. So that way, if you have the characteristics of dyslexia, we can get you one of our targeted supports. We have dyslexia-specific interventions such as SPIRE and REWARD. SPIRE is for our K-5, and it follows certain steps and processes that are specific to the needs of those students. And REWARDS is the secondary version of that. So that way, if a student is identified, let's say in 2nd grade or 3rd grade, we can provide them resources to be successful all the way through 12th grade. So that
fantastic.
way, by the time they leave, they are career and college ready. They could do either one of those options,
Yeah.
but they have been empowered to choose and they're not limited on anything.
Yes, and that's the great thing about Mobile County Public Schools. We are intentional with everything that we want all of our students to be college and career ready, just
Yes.
like you mentioned.
That's it. I want every child to be able, after they walk across that stage and they have their diploma, to be empowered to have the choice of what they want to
Absolutely.
do with the rest of their life.
Yes.
I don't want them to feel like they've been steered or they weren't given an opportunity. If they can dream it, we're going to give them the opportunity to have it.
Yes, we are.
Well, one of the recent announcements we were processing through the office was about the all the students that won awards at the History Day competition, the statewide competition, and I was surprised to see that a really large component of that seems to be writing.
Yes.
So I wondered if you could talk to us a little bit about some of the different skills that we emphasize with our high school students with regard to language arts, because I don't know if your average high school student realizes how very important it is to be able to write well.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, that's another one. I think everything is my favorite subject because as you
You're
break
like, oh,
stuff
that's
up,
another
I'm like,
favorite.
that's another favorite. I told you I get to do my favorite thing in the
You're
world.
in your dream job.
I'm in my dream job. So Mr. Spivey, Matthew Spivey, is our social studies academic supervisor. So he's like the me, but for social studies.
Yes.
And he wholeheartedly supports literacy.
Absolutely.
And so I talked with him about History Day and a couple other things we're working on, and he was talking to me about the writing, and I was like, wow, that is so cool. It reinforces a lot of those skills, such as those critical thinking skills, being able to put your thoughts together about an issue, pull from credible sources,
Yep.
and then evaluate to come up with your own idea and opinion.
Yeah.
And then express it in such a way that you can convince other people of your belief or idea. And not have the wrong information or erroneous information. One of the things with like ACT writing is ideas and content and organization. It also deals with conventions, which has to do with grammar usage and mechanics, but you would be surprised we actually score very well in that category. I'm that makes me so proud. But
too.
an area for growth is ideas and content and organization. And that really comes with practicing and thinking about those critical ideas, analyzing a text, whether that be a primary or secondary resource within social studies, analyzing the results of a data set from an experiment that you might conduct in one of your science classes, or reading charts and graphs within your whatever mathematics course you are in, and then being able to explain what you've learned or found in the written word.
Yeah.
And we do that in all of our content areas. If you think about when we're in elementary school and we take it back to reading, we spend several hours a day learning that skill. Writing is where once we read to learn, we're now writing to express what we learned.
Yes.
And you only have ELA 50 minutes a day typically from middle school up. So it's so important that you have cross-curricular connections like the History Day
Yes.
and writing about those data sets, whether they be in the mathematics or science courses.
Yeah.
So there really is a lot of connection there, and there's research that supports that a different part of your brain actually activates when you put something into writing because you're processing it differently and at a deeper level. So that's why we talk about the importance of using reflective journals or reflection logs to
Yes.
reflect on what you learn, because it's going to seal that content and help you see it in a different way.
Yes.
Well, what would you say to parents who are concerned that their children spend so much time just texting? That is their primary way of communicating in some ways.
Technology.
Oh,
But texting is just so
technology.
sloppy.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
gosh.
that's what bothers me about it the most, I
So
think.
interesting enough, my dissertation is on student engagement and technology integration.
Really?
Yes, I love technology.
Yes.
However,
We all love it, yes.
When someone texts me, I'll text them back, and I always use proper punctuation and complete sentences.
Yes.
And then if I use shorthand like LOL, I put a symbol next to it so that way it clarifies it. Just
No
saying.
confusion here.
No confusion. It was not satire. I meant LOL.
Yes.
But a lot of the issue is that when we take it back to ELA and we read a text and we want to think about it deeply, then you have to be able to focus. And we're so used to so many different information outlets shooting at every way,
That
right?
attention span.
Attention
There is no
span
attention
goes
span.
down, and then your filter for what is factual and not factual begins to become an issue. So both of
Yeah.
those things are addressed with our new Alabama course of study. There are specific things in there about research skills, and determining credibility of resources.
And see, those are things that used to typically not be taught until college.
Exactly.
But now we are providing our students these resources to go ahead and start thinking more critically and go ahead and start backing that up with credible research, not just
Exactly.
Wikipedia.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Not Wikipedia.
Not Wikipedia. I missed the note cards where you took all your
Yes.
notes on research. But with the technology piece, also I would say to parents, have your students handwrite things.
Yes.
There is research that supports that a different part of your brain is activated when you handwrite things.
Yeah.
When I'm a student and I'm trying to type a paper and I don't know how to type, I have to activate a different part of my brain. I have to then remember where the A key is, the R key is, and the E key is. And every time I interrupt my critical thinking about this idea to recognize where the key placement is, I then inhibit my own learning.
Wow.
So it's so important, and I recommend to everybody to handwrite everything before you type it. I still handwrite my
I do
stuff for
too.
my job
I do
before
too.
I type it up and give it to people.
For me, it's all about paper. There's just some sort of value, in my brain at least, having something on paper.
Yes, if you can get it down on paper, it's like I can. Oh, okay, I understand it a little bit.
Well,
a
and
little
I'm
bit
not
better.
staring at electronics, right? So
yeah,
there's
there's
something about
nothing
not
else
staring
that's
at
going to
electronics.
distract you.
right.
Yes. So as we're talking about these skills, reading, of course, and writing, what are ways our parents can keep their kids engaged and keep these skills sharp and fresh over the summer?
Oh, I love that. Okay, so just like I love everything.
Yes.
So a lot of our schools have summer reading programs. So reach out to your local school, determine what books they're recommending. A lot of your classroom teachers would be able to make recommendations. Reach out to them to see what other kids at that grade level are reading.
Yeah.
Mobile Public Library has, of course, you can.
They have a great summer reading program.
they
I love
do.
the
They
library.
do. Check in with them. Go to their website and see what they have available to you. There are so many different things, and I'm going to do one last plug. Dolly Parton has
Yes.
donated
Oh, yes.
millions of books across the
Yes.
country, and she recently opened up the ability for any child in Alabama up to a certain grade level to get free books.
books.
That is a fantastic
so I
program.
would absolutely just Google Dolly Parton free book program and then enter in your information. And I think you get one book a month.
Yes.
For a year for your child to read.
Amazing.
So,
And everything you mentioned, not just the Dolly Parton book program, but everything you mentioned is free.
everything
So
is
going
free.
to the library, contacting your teacher, getting input from them, I think that's so important. Every year at the end of the year, I will talk to my son's teacher and I say, okay, what are your suggestions for him this summer? How can he grow or continue to stay where he is? I just don't want him to lose any of those concepts that he's learned throughout the year when he comes back for the next school year. It's always thinking ahead. And so the best insight you can get academically is from your child's current teacher.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And they will complete their end of year diagnostic screen to show all the growth they had. Talk to your teachers about it.
Yes.
Ask them where they grew, what their strengths are.
Yes.
Build on those. Spend your summer celebrating what they can do and
Yes.
building on their strengths. And of course, get a good book.
And make it fun.
Yes,
Make
it
it
has to
fun.
be.
Yes.
Well, that is about all the time we have, but thank you so much, Kevin, for being with us. Thank you, Kimberly. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we will catch you next time.